Welcome to the deep dive. Next time you sit down at your favorite restaurant, I want you to look really closely at the menu.
Right, because you probably think you're just looking at a list of food, deciding what you're in the mood for.
Exactly. But in 2026, that piece of paper or, that digital screen, it is actually a highly weaponized financial matrix designed to do exactly one thing, which is keep that restaurant alive.
It is entirely about survival at this point.
Yeah, and today we are pulling back the curtain on the intense, honestly, almost unbelievable survival mechanics of the modern U.S. restaurant industry. So if you've been wondering how your favorite local spot or even a massive regional chain is surviving the current economic pressures, well, we have the playbook, literally.
We really do.
We are pulling from an incredible stack of sources today. We've got the highly detailed 2026 Restaurant Command Center playbook, some eye-opening white papers breaking down the exact science of sales and profit margins, and a deep corporate profile of New Jersey's premier hospitality real estate titans, Bialat Santor and Company. Our mission today is to shortcut your path to understanding exactly how this industry operates right now. Okay, let's unpack this.
It is a phenomenal stack of information, really, because it covers the entire life cycle. You get the macro-level industry data, then the microscopic daily operational survival tactics, and then the ultimate endgame, which is how you actually value and sell a highly volatile brick-and-mortar hospitality business without the whole thing collapsing.
Right, and I want to start with that macro view first, because if you just look at the top-line numbers from our sources, things actually sound, they sound amazing. It sounds like we are in a massive hospitality boom.
Oh, for sure, on the surface.
Yeah, the projections for 2026 show U.S. food service sales hitting an astronomical $1.55 trillion. Total industry employment is reaching 15.8 million, which means they are adding about 100,000 new jobs. So on paper, it sounds like everybody is eating out, everyone is making money, and the industry has never been healthier.
On paper, yes. But you have to look at the underlying math, because that top-line number is incredibly deceptive. The sources explicitly warn that these nominal revenue gains are an illusion.
Wait, an illusion? How so?
Well, nominal growth is tracking around 4.8%, which sounds good, but when you adjust for the persistent inflation the market has absorbed, cautious consumer spending, and just the constant search for value, the real inflation-adjusted growth is actually a meager 1.3%.
Oh, wow, 1.3%. So the industry is essentially flatlining, but the numbers look bigger just because everything is way more expensive.
Exactly. And the playbook has this visual that I found terrifying for anyone trying to run a restaurant right now. They liken the situation to being caught in a vice grip.
That is the perfect analogy, honestly, a vice grip.
Yeah, think about the mechanics of a vice. Pushing down from the top jaw, you have food costs. In a healthy, traditional model, you want those highly controlled. But right now, they're sitting at 28 to 35% of total sales. Often way more.
And that's just the baseline cost of the food itself, right?
Right. And that is before you even factor in an industry average of 4 to 10% in sheer food waste. So before a plate even hits a table, inflation and waste are crushing your margins from above.
So imagine buying 10 bags of groceries for your house and just tossing one straight into the dumpster before you even start cooking. That's insane.
Precisely. Now look at the bottom jaw of that vice pushing up. You have labor costs, which are consuming another 25 to 40% of sales.
And it's not just wages, is it?
Not at all. Layered onto that labor number are rising swipe fees from credit cards, exploding property and liability insurance premiums, and skyrocketing energy costs. The industry groups all of this together under the term prime costs.
And the sources note that when your prime costs start exceeding 60% of your revenue, your net profit basically just vanishes.
The math becomes completely impossible at that point. If 60 cents of every dollar is gone immediately to prime costs, you only have 40 cents left to cover rent, massive equipment depreciation, marketing, debt service on your loans, and taxes.
Which leaves you with almost nothing.
Right. If you're lucky, you might walk away with a 2 to 5% net profit. Over 9 in 10 operators cite these exact margin pressures as the primary threat forcing them into unprofitability. If we connect this to the bigger picture, survival in 2026 isn't just about selling more food.
It requires a dual front war, right? You have to aggressively steal market share while ruthlessly slashing internal waste.
You have to do both at the exact same time. And that is where we get into the actual tactics inside the building.
So knowing those stakes, let's get into how operators are actually fighting back inside their four walls. The playbook introduces this concept called the Daylight Culinary Command Center.
Yes, and it requires the simultaneous layered implementation of two engines.
Right. They call them profit green, which targets a 15 to 30% sales uplift, and efficiency amber, which targets 10 to 30% in cost reductions. And the sources state outright that single tactic approaches will fail.
Because if your internal operations are inefficient, running a flashy marketing promo just means you are losing money faster. The most fascinating tool in that profit green engine is how they execute menu optimization. They literally treat the menu as a highly calibrated financial matrix.
This is where it blew my mind. It's exactly like managing a professional sports team roster. You have different players, and you need them to do very different jobs.
Exactly. They categorize everything.
Right. The playbook utilizes these exact 4 categories. First, you have your stars. These are high appeal, high margin items. Think about specialty appetizers or signature cocktails where the profit margins are a massive 60 to 70%. These are your MVPs.
So you spotlight them, right? Bold design, prime placement on the menu.
Exactly. Then you have your puzzles. These are items that have a very high profit margin, but surprisingly low customer appeal. People aren't naturally ordering them.
So the mechanical strategy here is all about staff training. You train your staff to actively upsell these specific items, or you bundle them strategically into combo deals to force them into the ecosystem.
Next on the roster are the plow horses. These are the tricky ones. High appeal, but low margin.
A classic steak dinner is the perfect example of a plow horse.
Right. Everyone wants it. It drives massive traffic. But the raw meat is so expensive, you barely make a dime on the plate. For these, the playbook dictates strict portion control and highly standardized recipes to protect whatever tiny margin is actually left.
And finally, you have the dogs. Low appeal, low margin.
Nobody wants them, and they don't make you money. So the strategy there is just trim them immediately to reduce inventory bloat. But I want to push back on this a little bit.
Okay.
On paper, that makes total sense. But in the real world, how does trimming options off your menu or strictly policing portion sizes on a plow horse actually grow your revenue? Doesn't that just annoy customers? I mean, if I go to my favorite place and my favorite dish is gone, I'm going to be annoyed.
That is the exact risk, and it's why the execution has to be invisible to the customer. It's not about maliciously shrinking a steak so the customer leaves hungry. It's about variance reduction.
What do you mean by variance reduction?
When they say strict portion control, it means stopping the line cook from accidentally throwing an extra 2 ounces of expensive protein on a plate just because they are rushing during a Friday night dinner pop. It's about mathematical consistency. And regarding cutting the dogs, you aren't just blindly slashing the menu.
Right, operators are doing rigorous quarterly data reviews.
Exactly, using their point-of-sale systems. By trimming the low-performing items, they lower their target food cost to under 30%. But they protect the customer's perception of value by heavily promoting the high-margin stars and puzzles.
So if your server brings out an incredible, visually stunning appetizer that tastes amazing, you feel treated.
You had a great experience.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the restaurant just made a 70% margin on that item, which offsets the low margin on your steak. The data in the white paper proves this works. By pairing these trims with the data reviews, check sizes actually lift by 10 to 30%. The key is protecting value perception without relying on desperate, brand-damaging, deep discounting.
You're basically reshaping the path of least resistance so that whatever the customer chooses, the restaurant wins. Here's where it gets really interesting, though. The playbook pivots to a massive, surprising growth area for 2026. Operations extending past 11 p.m.
Ah, yes, the late-night flywheel.
Operators are launching these munchies menus or reverse happy hours.
Yeah.
But they aren't just cooking fresh food from scratch at midnight.
No, this is brilliant. They take those high-margin stars and puzzles, bundle them at a slight discount, and use this late-night rush to deliberately and efficiently clear out their daytime perishable inventory and prep scraps.
It is the ultimate efficiency hack. But again, I have to push back. Doesn't staying open past 11 p.m. just bleed overhead money? I mean, you have to pay staff, keep the lights on, keep the HVAC running.
That is exactly how legacy operators think, and it's why they close their doors at 10 p.m. But the playbook directly answers this using the mechanics of sunk costs. Think about a restaurant's biggest expenses.
Rent, insurance, equipment.
Right. Rent is a fixed monthly cost. By 11 p.m., the daytime sales have already paid the daily fraction of that rent. The insurance is paid. The expensive kitchen equipment is fully depreciated for the day. Those massive fixed costs are effectively zeroed out for the late-night shift.
Oh, I see. So the late-night margins are strictly variable. You're only paying for the direct labor and the incremental utilities.
Exactly. And this tactic yields a 20 to 30% traffic uplift and a 10 to 25% boost in overall check sizes. And to drive that behavior, they even offer double points on their loyalty apps, specifically for late visits.
But this requires a really tight tech ecosystem to actually pull off. The playbook notes that operators are bypassing third-party delivery apps entirely.
So absolutely. If you can get a customer to use your direct ordering channels, you see a 25% plus uplift in takeout profit just by dodging those massive third-party commission fees.
And furthermore, operators are utilizing AI POS data for predictive scheduling. The historical average turnover in this industry is brutal. It's over 70%.
Which is incredibly expensive.
Right. But with AI analyzing historical data, weather patterns, and local events to perfectly predict staffing needs, they are lowering that turnover to a target of under 50%. The staff actually make money, and they don't burn out.
But there is an integration tip from the playbook that is crucial here. This is to connect tools natively to existing POS systems and only pilot one new tool per quarter.
So you don't overwhelm the staff.
Exactly. If you drop 5 new apps on them in a month, the system breaks and they go back to pen and paper.
Right. So we've got AI analyzing weather patterns, and we're aggressively repurposing yesterday's prep scraps for tonight's late night menu. And that smoothly transitions us to a much broader, massive role in 2026, which is sustainability.
It is a massive shift.
And I should note to the listener right here, just to be totally transparent, our sources discuss things like reducing greenhouse gas footprints and expanding plant-based menus, but we are not endorsing any political viewpoints today. We are simply reporting the business strategies outlined in the source text that operators are using to meet consumer demands and cut operational costs.
What's fascinating here is that sustainability is no longer a PR nice-to-have tool. It is a core, ruthless mechanism for defending margins against rising utility fees. It's all about the circular kitchen.
Right, moving away from linear disposal where you just dump scraps in the trash to circular repurposing.
Yes, it relies on tech-enabled tracking to target waste hotspots. They are putting smart scales under prep trash cans, plate return areas, and monitoring overproduction.
And this tech unlocks a 15 to 25% reduction in waste. The sources actually note that refed estimates there are literally billions in untapped opportunity here.
Billions of dollars just sitting in dumpsters. And for unavoidable waste, they're even subjecting it to anaerobic digestion to produce biogas and fertilizer.
And then on the facility side, kitchens are massive energy hogs.
Huge. The heat and cooling required is immense.
But by upgrading to Energy Star appliances with natural refrigerants and installing LED lighting with IoT controls, plus low-flow water recycling systems, operators reduce their overall utility load by an impressive 15 to 20% plus.
Which significantly eases the pressure on those prime costs we talked about earlier.
So you've optimized the menu, automated the tech, and dialed in your waste footprint. What happens when your operation is highly profitable and you want to scale up, or you decide it's time to cash out?
That is a whole different ballgame. You need specialists for that.
Enter Bielat Santor and Company, or BSC. Founded in 1978, they have sold more restaurants and similar properties in New Jersey than any other real estate company. They are led by Barry J. Bielat, who is the strategist and expert in debt-sensitive transactions, and Richard R. Santor, the dealmaker and technologist.
Their dominance is really incredible. They have a massive track record, having facilitated over $500 million in financing.
Yeah, their portfolio covers everything from the Shadowbrick Estate, which was sold to the Venetian Catering Group, to Rooney's Oceanfront.
They even do marinas and active adult homes like the 614 homes at Four Seasons at Millville, which was a $185 million value project. They famously boast in the text, "We have never failed to obtain an approval for land development."
But here's a huge question I had about them. I was zeroing in on BSC's 4-step branded selling cycle.
Okay, what stood out?
I understand step 1 through 3 evaluation, visual assets, positioning, but in execution, they put a massive emphasis on the art of confidentiality. As a seller, don't you want your listing blasted everywhere to start a bidding war? Why the secrecy?
I get why you'd think that. But the source material explains that selling an operating business is incredibly precarious. If staff find out too early that the place is for sale, you risk severe instability or a mass walkout.
Because they panic about their job.
Exactly. And if they walk out, the business stops running, the cash flow stops, and that instantly tanks the business value. You aren't selling a restaurant anymore, you're selling a vacant building.
Oh, that makes so much sense. So how does BSC avoid that?
They use discrete marketing channels, a proprietary digital hub called 123bse.com, and strict pre-qualification to buyers to limit unnecessary exposure. They perfectly quarterback the deal to the finish line. Major players like Chef David Burke actually endorse this specific method because it works so well.
So what does this all mean?
Well, synthesizing it all, in 2026, navigating the hospitality sector is a high-wire act. It requires microscopic attention to internal efficiencies, like waste tracking, AI forecasting, and menu matrices, perfectly coupled with a macroscopic strategic view of real estate and enterprise value.
It is wild, and looking at all these sources, it leaves me with one final thought. Data is clearly the ultimate currency here. From AI forecasting customer cravings to BSC segregating real estate investors through proprietary databases, it makes you wonder, by 2030, will a restaurant's true valuation even be based on how good its food tastes?
That is the big question.
Or will it be valued purely as a neighborhood data mining hub and energy recycling plant that just happens to serve a great reverse happy hour burger? Something to think about the next time you order late night apps. That is it for today's deep dive. Keep questioning and exploring, and we'll see you next time.